Hello, Brian Pierce, the Pierce Brothers, and today we're going to talk about 223 Remington rifles, and we're going to have to mention 5.56 NATO as well. As we we often hear people talk about building a rifle battery, or the last gun they would ever, if they could only have one rifle, or whatever. I'm all in favor of having many rifles, everyone for a very specialized purpose, whatever it is. But I think that a bolt action 223 is one of the most important rifles that you can put in your battery, and there's a number of reasons for that. One is I get a lot of questions from families, young families that aren't shooters, and they're kind of concerned about our political problems in the world. And we know that's just rumbling. It's a sad note for America. It's a sad day, but it's a concern when people are saying, and I'm actually getting a lot of ladies that are asking me about this that are not shooters. They're saying, we're kind of on a tight budget, but we kind of need a gun, a rifle, and maybe a handgun, whatever. And what do you recommend? And, for non-trained people, AR-15s and modern sporting rifles, as they're called, can be a little bit intimidating. The magazine, is it loaded? Is this and that? And so I often tell them, look, just go buy 1,000 rounds of 223 and a quality bolt action rifle, put a quality scope on it, and learn how to use it. Train your boys, your young girls, whatever, marksmanship, teach the wife how to shoot it and use it. And so let's back up a minute and talk about the 223 and its development. It, of course, started in the mid-50s. I think 57 is when it really got underway. They initially were using 222 Remington brass, which had been introduced in 1950, and had become very popular with varmint shooters and target shooters, even bench rest shooters. And but they stretched the case. They moved the shoulder forward, shortened the neck, and ultimately Remington was involved in that as well. Remington initially introduced that cartridge to the Sporting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturers Institute in January of 1964, which was about a month prior to the U.S. military formally adopting the 5.56, the M193. So any cartridge that becomes a military adopted cartridge, it seems ultimately becomes widely popular with civilians. The 223 is no different. So let's take something a little further. I don't want to get into this too much because it's a little bit off subject, but questions often asked, how interchangeable are the 5.56 NATO and the 223? So they are, but they're not. So here's the bottom line. The 5.56 is generally loaded to a little bit higher pressure, not a lot, but the pressure is measured in a little different method on a different position on the case within the pressure barrel. And that's as simple as I'm going to state it for now. The 223 chamber and the 5.56 NATO chamber are dimensionally the same, except that the 5.56 has a longer throat. So it's possible in using 5.56 ammo in a 223 chamber that pressures can go up. Most rifles it's absolutely safe in, but you can see higher pressures. So it's one of those things that it's like, kind of avoid it. The SAMI, the Sporting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturers Institute, does not recommend it, but it's one of those things that, yeah, you can do it. You can get away with it. Don't do it if you don't have to. If you have to, do it. So, and that kind of leads into another reason the 223 is so important is that ammunition is everywhere. It's inexpensive. Practice ammo is inexpensive. You can buy it in bulk. It comes from many different sources. So, and I may mention too that a lot of sporting rifles, bolt action sporting rifles, are chambered for 223 only, and they're marked that way on the barrel. Others are marked 5.56, and they are 5.56 NATO, and they're of course suitable for both according to that manufacturer. So, and Ruger's another example. You can buy Ruger American, a rifle similar to this. You can buy it in 223 chamber and 5.56 chamber. So there is a little difference in the cartridges. But I don't want to get into that too much right now. Mainly, I want you to consider why the bolt action 223 is so important. One, the cost of ammunition is very inexpensive. You can go out and practice, shoot, become proficient. It's very accurate. Two, it doesn't recoil to speak of. I mean, it's very, very minimal. So, a young boy or a girl can shoot it and not feel intimidated, not feel hurt with it. They can extend out several hundred yards and hit targets, build confidence. The weight of ammunition. If we had some kind of a crisis in America and roads were blocked or whatever, you can't leave the big cities. I'm glad I don't live in a big city, but let's say you cannot do that. The weight of ammunition, like a single box of ammo with the carton is about 9 ounces for 20 rounds. That's super light. You can throw quite a few of those in a pack and not overly weight yourself down. By the way, by the 1,000, of course, it depends on bullet weight and exact load, but it's about 28 pounds per 1,000 rounds. That's a lot of ammunition for 28 pounds. If you go to a 300 Win Mag or a 30-06 or 308, that weight ratio goes way, way, way up. So it makes the 223 a very, very attractive rifle and cartridge for that purpose. Now, that's something we got to talk about, and I don't want this. I hope that a lot of beginning shooters and so on watch this video, because the original twist rate on the 223 was 1 in 14, and ultimately the service rifles dropped that down to a 1 in 12 for a little better bullet stabilization with 55 grainers. Beginning in 1980, when the 5.56 NATO was introduced, and it's different than the 5.56 ball cartridge that was introduced in 1964. So when that occurred, they changed the twist rate to a 1 in 7. Now, sporting rifles, bolt action sporting rifles, they're kind of all over the place. In fact, you can get on Ruger and see where they're offering 1 in 8s and 1 in 9 twists, and from the same company. We're seeing, but I'll say this. Okay, 1 in 12 was a standard for a long time. There's still a lot of rifles out there with 1 in 12. Then it went to a 1 in 10. Now the 1 in 8 to 1 in 9 seem to be about the most popular, and there's a reason why. It's because they can stabilize bullets up to 75 grains or thereabouts, and that helps with the ultra long range shooting. They are not best for the super long and super heavyweight bullets. You're going to want a faster twist in that, but they will stabilize 35-40 grain bullets on the super light end at high velocities. And that's one of the things about the 223 is that one of the things that makes it so versatile is the huge variety of ammunition out there. I just grabbed 3 Hornady loads here just to show. I have a 53 grain VMAX, which is a remarkable bullet, very high BC, and that's actually a super load, very, very accurate. It'll reach out to 400 yards on varmints if necessary, even further occasionally. Have a 60 grain, what Remington calls their TAP, T-A-P, FPD load, and it's more for defense and so forth. There's, of course, the 55 grain VMAX, very popular. Now, in a pinch, the 223 can serve for taking deer. It's a little light, I'm granted, but I started my boys on that cartridge shooting deer when they were young. I wanted them to use a big game bullet, the right bullet for the job at hand, kept distances within reason, and focused on accuracy, in other words, shot placement, and it worked very reliably. I didn't bring it, but I have a little Ruger M77 Mark II with 20-inch barrel, very lightweight, and they shot that thing very well. Good trigger on it, good little low power scope, and they've taken a lot of deer with that gun. But it does change personalities depending on the type of gun that it's chambered in. The Savage rifle, this little Model 10, obviously designed for predator hunters, which is a great sport, a lot of fun. They're known for super accuracy, and the Savage has done that for literally. They've been known for this for 30 years, literally, and their cost of their guns are very modest. You can pick them up depending on exact model and variation and whatever, but $500, $600, $700 often. The Ruger 77, this is a 77 Mark II all-weather. That's a great little rifle. They don't make this exact model anymore. They do make a Hawkeye with a green laminate stock and so forth, but they've the cost of making this rifle has been creeping up and up. So it's a great rifle. I definitely recommend it, but I think the new Ruger is about $1,400 MSRP. So street price is probably going to be at least $1,000, $1,100, somewhere in that range. So it's a little pricier. The Howa 1500. Now there's a lot of variations in this. These are wonderful rifles. Weatherby also markets the Vanguard, which is basically the same action, and made in Japan. They've been building Vanguard since 1971. Very reliable, accurate rifles, and they have a hammer forged barrel. I've shot a number of these. I own several of them. They'll honestly, with the right ammo, shoot half inch at 100 yards, half inch grooves. So that's one to think about. Another one that's kind of an interesting little rifle Mossberg introduced here quite a few years ago now, but the MVP, and they make it in several configurations designed for varmint hunters and whatever. This particular one is more, I don't like saying the word anymore, it's too commonly used, but it's more set up for tactical. So it's set up with a rail to mount a scope or other optics on top. It's got backup iron sights, which is a wonderful thing. It is threaded. You can go to suppressors if you would like, whatever. But one thing about this little rifle, has a detachable magazine. This is a little 10-round detachable magazine. It shares the same magazines as an AR. So you can get round magazines as well. I kind of like the 10 in it because it doesn't protrude too much. And 10 rounds is a lot of coyotes. I kind of keep these in the trucks on the ranch for out feeding, whatever, and see a coyote and boom, and they work really nice. So, and they're very accurate as well. The Ruger American, this is actually an older one. They still make the same thing, but they're in the process of transitioning the American 2. And these guns were pretty economically priced when they first came out. They were only about, it seemed like a little over $300, but now they're about double that. So, and they make a variety of them in tactical variations too. They make them to accept the AR magazines, and in tactical variations, but that's actually a very popular gun. It's been, again, Ruger did a great job on these. They're very, very accurate. And so the efficiency of the 223 cannot be overlooked. It uses very modest powder charges. It offers a very long barrel life, very low recoil, weight of ammunition is low. You can hit things at 300, 400, 500 yards very reliably with the right gun, the right loads. And they're a great training rifle. They're a great defense rifle. Granted, I'm the first to admit this. If you live in a big city area, you may want something with a little more firepower. I grant that. And if things went bad, but these are kind of a rifle that serves a purpose, from shooting coyotes, pests, whatever, to just general defense. Very, very useful rifle, very practical rifle. Every family should have one, or two or three. So something to think about. Their prices are modest. They're reliable. One advantage of bolt actions as well. Actually, a number of advantages, but the safety of them is that one reason I really like them for a truck gun or a ranch gun is that you've got something to shoot. Boom, you shoot it. You can leave the round in the chamber. The gun's not cocked, or the case in the chamber. The gun's not cocked. You're not relying on a safety. It can come back in, pointed safely at the floor, whatever, but it's not like an autoloader that instantly reloads itself. It's ready to fire, and you're relying on a safety to prevent it from firing. I generally avoid relying on safeties. So from a safety aspect, the bolt action has an advantage. Another thing is that, and not all bolt actions are as reliable as others, but the reason I grabbed this Ruger is these are extremely rugged, reliable actions. They just don't break. You can shoot these things, just shoot them, abuse them, neglect them, dust, dirt, it doesn't matter. They just keep running. Very, very reliable, robust actions. And ARs, I'll respect ARs. They work, very reliable, very good gun, but you kind of have to know how to use them, how to run them, how to maintain them, whereas a bolt action, that minimizes that. So it's just something to think about for a family that is not going to spend a lot of time training with an AR or learning maintenance. and so forth. So bolt actions have their place, and the safety factor as well. So anyway, there's a gun that probably belongs in every rifleman's battery, a bolt action 223. So there's a few examples, and appreciate you joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It'll help us grow, and share to anybody you think that might be interested in watching our videos. Thanks, and we'll see you next time on the Pierce Brothers.